The artists need to be given the tools to succeed in the business place so they can support themselves. They don't end up working in a supermarket. In Linden Lab, they can leverage this to create something truly unique that no other corporation can have. It's the artists who are able to get in there and really push the technology. And it's vital that Linden Lab supports the community through equitable terms. Does that make sense?
It totally does. So, Richard, thank you. This is really great. Can you read the station ID?
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hi, this is Richard A. Goldberg, and you are listening to the Drax Radio Files Hour. All right. Take 2. 3, 2, 1. Hi, this is Richard A. Goldberg, and you are listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. Are we done now?
Yes, we're done. Thanks.
Thank God.
Okay.
I'm gonna start rolling.
I'm not there yet. I have to run up the stairs first. Okay, I'm coming up the stairs.
Oh, this microphone is kind of cool.
I know. Ugh.
Hey, somebody left a cigarette here. That's dangerous.
Modern wimp.
Hello. Sit down, please. Oh, crap. I just bumped into my microphone. Hello and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. I'm here with Jo in 1920s Berlin, literally.
Yes, we are.
We are. I'm no longer on the central coast of California in a converted garage. And Jo, you're no longer in a 1920s style apartment in Amsterdam. You are in a 1920s style attic in 1920s Berlin.
This stuff looks cool. Sorry, have we started yet?
Yeah. Actually, I'm rolling, and people may have gathered that we're wearing our Oculus Rifts, our head-mounted displays. I'm sorry, I'm not going to mention the brand name again because we're not yet sponsored by them.
We should be.
Ah, you look good. Here. Hi, and
hello. Yes, sorry, I'm looking at all the radio equipment.
Yeah, we're looking at the radio equipment.
Cool.
This is really cool.
Cocktail shaker.
Jo, it just occurred to me that that we're making history. This might be the first ever podcast in virtual reality. All right, I had to say it. I'm sorry, Ben. Nothing personal. So, folks, don't worry. We are going to be talking about a lot of other things as well besides the immersion, besides the full immersion that we're experiencing. We have illustrator and Second Life designer Richard A. Goldberg on the show today. We heard him in the station ID, and we will talk about the Linden Lab Terms of Service, specifically Section 2 that was revised last summer to the dismay of many creators. Linden Lab CEO Ebbe Altberg has publicly stated that these terms are to be revisited soon. But first, this just in, and you might have read Jo's blog yesterday as we go to air Friday. It's a day ago that the announcement was made that SL Go is now available for an unlimited subscription of $9.95, a monthly flat rate. SL Go is, of course, the SL mobile version from OnLive. And we caught Senior Product Manager Dennis Harper just yesterday. I talked to him to give us a little bit more information about that.
The overwhelming response for SL Go as a product, as an experience, using Second Life has been overwhelming for us. Across the board, everybody is highly engaged and loves the idea, loves the concept of what we're doing, and is really, frankly, amazed at the technology that is involved with the product. And the only thing that anybody really has a problem with is the pricing model. And we have listened to both you, to all of the people that have listened to your radio program, and the comments on all the blog sites. And we like to think that OnLive is a company that listens, and we listened, and what we heard was that we want to use SL Go. We want everyone to use SL Go. And so what we did is as you know, we sent you some surveys, and we said, where's your pricing limits and that sort of thing. And to tell you the truth, when it came down to it, we cut in half what you guys said you would pay for it to get this to everybody, as big an audience as possible for Second Life. This is what we're giving you. We're giving you SL Go at $9.99 a month, unlimited play, which I think is fantastic.
I think it's completely fantastic. When I got the survey, I said, I would pay $20. And that's something that may have been lost in the shuffle with some quick responding emotional SL folks. They go like, now they're charging for my SL. No, this is something that you don't use 24/7, number one. I think we need to clarify this. This just enables you to be absolutely everywhere on a low-end machine and also on an older machine. And I think that is actually a real killer application. I have a Mac Pro that I use for audio, and when I edit, and that never ran SL. And I can have a side window open there with SL. I'm in my SL office. People can walk in while I have a full Pro Tools session open. It is really amazing.
The reactions, just like you have, are kind of across the board, especially, I was talking to, Jo Yardley, who was, experiencing her 1920s Berlin, which is one of the, most demanding areas in all of Second Life, I might say.
I know, the original textures from 1920s alone, they can make a computer want to commit suicide.
Right, exactly. And, and SL Go can handle it hands down, and it renders beautifully, even on the lowest end PC or Mac that you could have. And a very compelling part of the project that we, I think, that would be appealing to everyone. And think of it, $9.99 a month is not. It's not a deal breaker for a lot of people. I realize that Second Life is a free application, and there's always going to be some resistance to paying something for Second Life. So, in addition, the other thing we're doing is that we're opening up the Europe to access to SL Go as well, and we have a data center in Luxembourg.
I think the technology is amazing that you are able to do this. I was in laggy areas. I was in areas that were so crammed full of people. The arcade is one of the most popular shopping events. I don't know how many avatars were on that pier. I was able to walk in. It's a real pleasure. On a tablet, the controls, I think, are just fine. You mentioned about iOS. What's the status with that?
It's definitely still on the plan, and we're developing it right now. There's certain challenges to the iOS platform that we have, and there's OnLive is a busy company with a lot of initiatives. And I don't know if you have heard, but we recently announced some big products out there other than SL Go. But definitely iOS is in the plan. The next thing queued up for the big client engineers coming down the road.
I'm so SL obsessed. I missed that. What else did you announce?
We got a thing called Cloud Lift.
Oh, I saw that on my login screen. Yeah. What's that?
What that is it's a really interesting product. What it does is it allows you to play your Steam game on, again, like SL Go, on any platform that you want to. In fact, you don't have to download a Steam game and install it. You can link to Steam, and then we have Steam games running in our cloud. You can play the most, graphically intensive Steam game possible on your low-end PC.
So that was Dennis Harper. I do think it's an amazing deal. We're not being paid to say this. SL Go upgrades every old machine in my house instantly.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, this is a pretty reasonable price. If Linden Lab made a deal or, something, giveaway as a promotion, instead of 20 minutes, give an hour away.
Okay, so let's move to our other top topics before we get to Richard A. Goldberg, the interview. Jo, you had the Rift for a week now, and you blogged about it quite a bit. Mm-hmm. You tried the official viewer, you tried the Control-Alt Studio viewer, that David Rowe made. In a nutshell, what can you tell folks who are dismissive of the Oculus or of the experience of experiencing Second Life with a piece of hardware?
I don't want to sound rude, but until you've actually tried it, you don't really know what you're talking about. It is really an amazing experience, even on the DevKit one, which is pretty bad.
Right, the resolution is pretty darn bad.
The head tracking is pretty good, but not in every direction. But even with all that, and I already know that most of that's been fixed for the next DevKit, you are in Second Life. You are inside it. And that is fantastic. If you've spent 5 years building a city like I have, and you can suddenly walk through its streets, that's an amazing experience. I have to confess that I've had tears in my eyes a couple of times simply for seeing something the way I imagined it. And for the first time in my life, I've seen the true scale of a Zeppelin, of an airship, something I've wanted to see for as long as I can remember.
It's amazing. And when you see other people, how is that?
I managed our daily happy hour behind the bar, wore the riff for about an hour, didn't get sick, sorry. I had a chat with people, and it's really fun because you see them really up close. I did use voice. It is pretty much impossible to use the keyboard, even though I am a touch typist or a blind typist, whatever you call it. I was pretty useless on the keyboard. I guess you use your peripheral vision a lot more than I assumed. Everyone needs to go and think about solutions for that.
This is something that everybody has to deal with now. When we have devices that allow us full immersion, I think everybody who is now in the business of creating experiences for it really has to rethink what we're so used to with the keyboard and the mouse. And interestingly, it brings me to the Leap. We'll talk about our giveaway a little bit later today, but the Leap Motion attempted to do that also. And as we know, they had to cut 10% of their staff because the response out there was good, but it was not as embraced by everybody as they had expected. So I think that's a big, big push that comes along now with the advent of these devices, that we're really going to have to rethink what are we going to do with the keyboard and the mouse.
It suddenly feels like we're in a spaceship using medieval tools. Nothing against medieval tools, but it feels so weird to have to be able to use the keyboard and the mouse. And with things like the Kinect and the Leap Motion, I'm sure that pretty soon we're going to get rid of the keyboard and the mouse, and you're just going to stand there, wave your arms all over the place, interact with your real hands. Even some of the most advanced new technologies, you still see people waving balls on sticks around and big controllers, which I think is ridiculous.
That's right. And I also wanted to ask you, did you build a little bit? I mean, I didn't say this last time, but I found the building aspect absolutely mind-bogglingly awesome, as if I'm sort of in third-person view specifically. You're hovering over your avatar like a godlike figure, and the little earthling there that you sent down into the world is rezzing prims, and they fall to the ground if you make them physical. I mean, it's just crazy.
Did a little bit of building, but not that much. I'm a really fast builder, and I use a lot of tools. I use HUDs, use my keyboard as well a lot to build stuff. So I had to go and sneak a peek to do that. The way I build is very complicated and very detailed. So if you're doing something basic, that's fine with the Oculus.
Well, thank you very much for implying that I can't build, but you are absolutely right. No, I'm just saying the simple act of having a prim, the pure sort of initial magic, I think, magic moment of Second Life when you res a prim and it actually appears in front of you, and you lift it up and your arm moves with it, and then you make it physical and it falls to the ground. The empowering nature of that blew me away with having the Rift on.
The moment I actually tried it made me realize that even my ramblings the last couple of months didn't amount to that much compared to the actual experience. It feels really stupid, and I apologize, but I just can't describe it. You are inside it. That's the best way I can describe it, and it's the only way I can describe it until you try it yourself.
It is very similar to the SL experience also, which is also very difficult to describe. The relationship you have to your avatar, when you start describing that to someone who hasn't experienced it, you usually get an eye roll and a sigh or something worse.
Unlike you, I am a gamer. I love games. I even like those stupid, shallow games that mostly 12-year-old boys like to play, such as DayZ, where you're a zombie apocalypse surviving, you run around. But especially with the status of the headset at the moment, the quality we get at the moment, it is absolutely much better suited for immersion, because that is the secret, immersion. And immersion works best if you take your time and you are in a detailed, rightly scaled, which is also very important, surroundings.
These things become important now, the scaling and the quality of the textures.
If the headsets go as big as I think they will, and as most people in the industry think they'll become, a lot of people in Second Life have to completely rethink how they build their sims.
I was going to ask you about the the status of the beta viewer? What do you think the official Linden Lab viewer when you tried it now? What widely you said it's kind of a Iron Man type sort of floating windows?
I think it's a pretty damn good first try, first beta. I am impressed that they managed to get everything in there, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to put the entire Second Life viewer into the VR viewer, and it is amazing that they did that. You can do pretty much anything you can do with a regular viewer, but I think there's still a lot of room for improvement.
We have tons of articles linked on our blog from Maria Korolov, our guest from last time. She has a blog post, The Race is On. Very interesting. There is a great review also on Hypergrid Business News about the Rift. The Guardian has an article which is great. Mark Wertz has a great video out where he tries the Rift. Now, there's a backlash. How about that? The Kickstarter backers, the original Kickstarter backers, are pissed off here that Oculus made a big deal. It made a big deal for $2 billion with Facebook, and they want their money back. And a lot of hate is leveled at the guys.
I can understand people being miffed. It is really, you get this feeling when you're supporting a Kickstarter that it's just you and them. And you give them a little bit of money, and then hopefully everything goes all right. But then when they suddenly start making billions, but that's the deal with Kickstarter. It would have been very nice and would have been a lot more fun if the Kickstarter is actually more of an investment sort of website instead of a funding website, a donation website. Everyone would be jumping through the roof if suddenly their $10 have become $100 or something like that. You know that before you give them your money,
Well, people are emotional beings, and if they want to send a death threat to Palmer Lucky's family...
Civilized humans can control their emotions. That's what the British Empire was built on. But there is absolutely no excuse for that sort of thing. You can start threatening people if they steal $2 billion from you. But even then you leave their family alone. I mean, it's the power of anonymity.
Philip Rosedale had a brief blog post on identity on the High Fidelity blog. High Fidelity is, of course, the virtual world he's now in select alpha testing phase. And we know a few people who are in there. We're not going to mention any names, and they can't talk about what they have seen. But anyway, Philip Rosedale was talking about identity, and he starts the post with the following paragraph. In the real world, we don't have name tags floating over our heads. The metaverse shouldn't be any different. I really like that he expresses his thoughts on privacy that way, kind of positioning what he's working on as maybe the opposite of what Facebook may be attempting to build in terms of the new metaverse.
It's a great idea, but if I'm running a happy hour in 1920s Berlin and there are 10, 15 guests and some of them are new, I have no idea who's who.
No, I understand, but the promise of avatar-based interaction is that we are judged on what we say and what we do and how we interact with the community, rather than a verifiable identity that links us to our real-life identity. The real thing that I'm worried about in the Facebook model, and I have no idea if that's in fact what they're building, but the Facebook model itself suggests that when they're building their version of the metaverse, they may force real names on people, and not everybody's comfortable with that. Not everybody is on Facebook for precisely that reason, because it limits you into that narrow box that is your quote-unquote real name.
I understand that, but at this moment on Facebook, you can already create a page that is pretty much anonymous. People in Second Life have a page for their avatar, which is connected to their real-life account, but there's no way of finding out who they are.
But they can purge it at any time, and Facebook has deleted in the past, I don't know how many, but I think...
No, you're confusing pages with profiles.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, you're right. Okay, you're right. You can create a page that is like a brand page. Absolutely.
It's far from ideal. And of course, Facebook should grow up and get rid of the silly nonsense of not allowing any avatar accounts.
And this discussion that Philip Rosedale is, I think, but he's weighing in. here in a very significant way with his stance on what they will allow, the kind of flexibility that they're planning to allow in high fidelity once that's going live. And that's really encouraging because we cannot let the Zuckerberg model of everybody wants to be in the high school yearbook. You need these choices. They enable people with, doesn't have to be people with social anxieties, but it could. In that vein, real quickly, we're going to link to the April Fool's joke from Gwyneth Llewellyn. Facebook likes Second Life, high fidelity, and buys both. And a lot of people fell for that. Linden Lab had their own, also found it quite funny. They're now making Second Life available for these old-fashioned paper 3D glasses.
I think I saw about a billion zillion for April Fool's jokes all about virtual reality.
But there's another blog post about why Facebook should buy Linden Lab. Did you read that one?
Yeah, I did. It just offers a couple of ideas on why it wouldn't be that crazy an idea for Facebook to buy Second Life. Building an entire virtual world from scratch is actually a bit more complicated and a lot more work than actually buying something and improving it. What you have to say is that Second Life has been around for over a decade and it's got a lot of experience. Although it can use a lot of improvement, it is also ready to use. It is a private company, so that helps as well, makes it a little easier. They've got hundreds and thousands of people who've made millions of objects that are also ready. There are entire worlds ready to explore because, if you start a virtual world from scratch, you have to, the content has to start from scratch as well. And now with the handy toss, we can easily move it over to Facebook.
Wow, that's a perfect segue to our conversation with Richard A. Goldberg. Let me go to that. He's an amazing artist, a designer, illustrator, and Second Life creator. He works for Mad P Games. And for a long time, he's been very active in educating artists how to negotiate contracts and how to do smart licensing and how to protect their copyright. And we spoke about Linden Lab's terms of service. Now, I think almost everyone listening to this show has an opinion on Section 2.3 of the Linden Lab Terms of Service that was changed in summer 2013 to include the following language in regards to what they define as user content. I'm going to read this real quick. You agree to grant to Linden Lab the non-exclusive, unrestricted, unconditional, unlimited, worldwide, irrevocable, perpetual, and cost-free right and license to use, copy, record, distribute, reproduce, disclose, sell, resell, sublicense through multiple levels, modify, display, publicly perform, transmit, publish, broadcast, translate, make derivative works of, and otherwise exploit in any manner whatsoever all or any portion of your user content and derivative works thereof. Okay, I'm going to stop here.
Ouch.
You can read it yourself. So this language, when it became known, prompted some prominent Second Lifers to leave or to at least publicly state that they would never, ever create anything again in Second Life. And also, Jo, I think we talked about a website that supplies textures.
It was CG Textures, which has some fantastic images that I really enjoyed using. Said from now on, you're no longer allowed to use our textures in Second Life.
Let's listen to my interview with Richard because I think he has a great way of approaching this in a non-adversarial way. Richard, thank you for taking the time. Let us first acknowledge that we're both not lawyers.
Your wife is an attorney, a very lovely one.
That's right. And the only thing that being married to a lawyer entitles me to is being on trial 24/7.
Well, aren't we all?
So what happened with the Linden Lab Terms of Service? Let's refresh our memories. Linden Lab changed them around...
About August of last year, I think I was first made aware of the change of Terms of Service, the TOS.
And if you could summarize what started this backlash and outcry that led to some people actually delete their accounts, at least vow to never come back?
Well, the old Terms of Service was a very reasonable document for content creators. And basically, if you're a content creator, you make your living by owning your property. Your income is derived from basically leasing out that property to various markets. So if I create something for Second Life, that's great. The Terms of Service says, here's our platform, you create it, you own it. We want no part of it. We simply are creating this world for you. Like my traditional illustration clients, where I'm commissioned to create a drawing for a magazine, and the terms of service there pretty much stipulate that I own the content and I am leasing them the rights to use that content in their format.
It seems like Linden Lab has now, in the new terms of service, chosen an approach as if Photoshop would force you, if you design a character, then Adobe owns that character.
Well, not so much owns it, but has unlimited reproduction rights to it, so they could do whatever they want with it, which was contrary to the copyright law of 1978 in the States.
Let's go back on the more fundamental level, because I think listeners are already confused. I mean, I read through everything and it's very clear in my head, but once you start talking about it...
Yes, on a more fundamental level, the way the copyright laws read in the United States and pretty much worldwide with moral rights, it states that if you create it, you own it, and that's it. So that's a very powerful document in the sense that whatever I create, I have the rights to lease out the terms that I can then sell and resell the drawing or object or whatever you make, whatever creation you whatever kind of artist you are. It doesn't have to be a visual art, it could be anything.
That's something that a lot of my musician friends still, I think some of them don't understand, that once you create it, you don't have to send it to the copyright office. You own it once you made it.
Now, when you own something, you have the right to sell it all, lock, stock, and barrel. Great, you get your fee, you're happy, or you have your choice not to sell it at all or to lease outright. So do whatever the hell you want with it. That's basically it. That's very simple. For instance, licensing is a very lucrative part of the business where if you're successful, you create one object and license it to 10 or 20 different people.
And sometimes a client would ask you to give him or her exclusive rights, and then you can negotiate and say, well, then you have to bring in a little bit more green, and then I might consider it.
Right. So some clients want to buy the copyright, which because of their needs, they need to be the creator of that work. When you sign over copyright, it means they are the creator. But if the price is right, you sell it. Now, the old terms of service from Linden Labs simply stated, okay, we'll reflect that. So whatever you create, you have your rights to it, and we don't want any part of it. I mean, we have the rights to feature it in Second Life and let all the other residents see it. Linden Lab amended their old terms of service to something more like whatever I create, they can use whichever way they want in perpetuity. So not only do they want to have the right to use that thing for whatever, but they also wanted to use it forever. So it was both a comprehensive rights grab and a term grab.
I don't know how this applies to the US, but in Germany, the Performing Rights Society can administer the artist rights for a certain amount of time. I think it's 70 years, and then you actually have to renew it. So this is, in fact, pretty darn drastic. Your great-great-great-grandchildren would still have to abide by these terms of service.
It's the same in the States. It's the copyright plus 70 years after you're done.
Also, there's language, and I'm looking for it, which seems to also be standard now on all platforms, including platforms that we don't know exist yet.
Yet been invented, correct. So now this is more and more a common terms of service, not only in Linden Lab territory, but also in my traditional two-dimensional illustration territory, where they want all the rights for nothing, basically. So because it makes it very easy for the purchaser to then manage that content, but it's totally unacceptable for a freelancer because that basically kills that item for resale, because somebody can get it either for free or from somebody else for cheaper.
The concern more is not that Linden Lab now goes in and looks for a really nice mesh chair and then sells that. It's more that you have no way of monetizing your own content in other venues.
Yes, and quite frankly, I believe that Linden Lab is not altering their terms of service to do that. I don't think they have any interest in my chair or whatever I create to resale for their financial gain. What I've heard they've claimed is that they simply want an easier rights package to manage with all their other businesses. So that to me means sloppy lawyering. I'm sure there's a better term for that, but basically it's saying, well, we'll just put this blanket TOS on for everybody and everybody will be happy. Well, no, everybody's not happy. The corporate side is happy, but the content creators are not happy. Even though the intentions from Linden Labs may be honorable, there is still potential there that if Linden Labs gets sold, then the new purchasers say, oh, look at this. We own all the content here. This is fabulous, you know? And then the content creators are literally, you know, expletive deleted.
You also told me in a previous conversation that one of the big problems that I also heard expressed from other content creators, when you create content for the Second Life platform, now that you can design this in Blender or other offline design engines, and then you use it for Second Life, you can also use it, of course, maybe for an iPhone game or something else. So you can have multiple platforms. So that wouldn't work either, right?
No, it wouldn't work because I may have an item that I want to resell that I created in Second Life. I may have an item that a client does want exclusivity of it. Now, me being the copyright owner, in a normal area, I can say, okay, I'll sell this new client the rights and I'll rescind the rights for Second Life. But now with these TOS, I can't do that. So then I can't sell to the exclusivity to my new higher paying client. And so that really limits me in the marketplace.
So just want to spell it out. As soon as you would put it into Second Life, let's say you create a creature, and as soon as you put it in Second Life, boom, you cannot guarantee another client who may come on board, say, hey, I love this creature, I'll pay you 20 grand for using it. And you can say, well, I can't do it because it's already in world.
That's basically it. So we we lose control. Each piece that we develop and each line that we develop takes an inordinate amount of time, and it's a lot of work, and we want to see a return on that investment. The TOS are problematic in that sense. It's antithetical to the way we do business, and the lab claims that they're not interested in this. So my thinking is, well, why can't we simply fix this with some simple language saying that, okay, content creator, here's the deal. We will basically have the rights to distribute your object on our various platforms, this, and this. But any other use, all rights revert back to me. You know, the language to that effect. I mean, again.
So the language could be revised, just making clear, limiting it to Linden Lab property, let's say.
There's no reason why they need perpetuity. That doesn't make any sense. Put a term on it. 10 years for as long as you're in Second Life, something with an end. Then it's any platform in yet to be invented. That's out. I mean, come on, what are we talking about there? You know, okay, so you have to spend a couple of days of your corporate lawyer's time on this language, but why not simply fix it? What's the problem with fixing it?
So perpetuity, territory,
scope. You know, they don't need unlimited usage for everything. I mean, just get rid of, be more precise with your language. Okay, they need unlimited use within the context of whatever that platform is that they bought from Australia. What's the name of that?
Desura, and that's what's been speculated over and over in countless blogs, that it had to do with the Desura acquisition, which is, let's remind listeners who are Second Life centric, who don't know what else is going on. Desura is a platform that distributes indie games and mods, just sort of like Steam, but I guess more focused on independent developers. That was, I guess, the reason given, sort of wishy-washy by them.
That may be problematic too. If they can transfer all of my rights to an indie gamer, you can see where sloppy language causes problems for us, for the content creators who are out here trying to make a living.
So what are we doing now then? What can we do? There are people who have very publicly stated they will leave the platform, they will no longer develop it. It seems to me that it should be in Linden Lab's interest to remedy this quickly, because Second Life is nothing without the content creator.
I thought that was the whole idea of Second Life, was to make a content creator paradise where you create all these wonderful things that are unique in the world, and you draw people into your platform because all these wonderful things are there that exist no place else, and everybody's one big happy family. So
A shared creative space, so to speak.
yes, they create the platform, we create the content. So as of now, I have to think about what I can contribute because I am entering other markets, like the Unity has a marketplace. Unity, the game creation software, the marketplace, and there are other marketplaces also.
They have a big asset marketplace. It's growing quite rapidly.
Yes, and that's basically the market we're all as mesh creators are entering. You know, if you could create mesh for the Second Life world, you can create mesh for basically any virtual world.
Jean Bouchard, who we interviewed last week in architecture, he went completely to Unity, and he does the same thing. So when somebody approaches him, what can we do? He's a big Second Life fan, but he says, "Nah, let's do Unity." So he recommends it. So this, in that sense, it's a competitor to Linden Lab, because if Linden Lab again also positions themselves, for example, as they suggest, in the educational market, Unity can be a big competitor, because somebody says, okay, I'll create this little school game for you guys in Unity. It's standalone. Boom, done.
That's true. I think that's why we're all wondering, when Second Life will maximize their position, which is actually quite strong. They've been at the game for a while. The browser's in great shape. I think the mechanics of the game, of the world, are in great shape. Lag is much less of a problem now. The Oculus Rift is coming out, which should enhance the experience. So now is actually a good time for them to build on their strengths. And there's competition in everything all the time for everybody. I mean, that's nothing new. So they should be able to compete, no problem. Now, from my point of view, I have to compete against other content creators, but I have to also enter different markets, because I can't live off of one market in any field, whether it is Second Life or working for one magazine or whatever. It's just not the way it works. As a content creator, I have to diversify my markets. I have to be able to sell here, and make money that way, which is fine, and that's how it's done. So it would be a shame to have to not be able to be in the Second Life market, not because it's such a huge market, but it is a great market. It's a lot of fun.
It's a fun market. Fun should not be excluded.
Great stuff there. I have friends there. And, I work for a company called MadP. We create great content. And from MadP's perspective, we want to deploy a state-of-the-art game for Second Life. And if we can't guarantee our rights to it, then we have to... We have some serious legal hurdles to pass before we can feel comfortable.
We agree to all sorts of very stringent terms of service. People are commonly not aware that potentially Facebook could construct a ad campaign out of some of your cool photos and pay you absolutely nothing. People are clicking accept within a millisecond here, and I know your answer already, but I asked that question anyway. What's the big deal if you sign it on Facebook, and why don't you just sign it in Second Life? Why don't you accept it?
Well, I don't create content for Facebook.
Exactly. And on LinkedIn.
As a matter of fact, Pinterest is another site. I'm not on there because of their terms of service. They want a comprehensive. We can use this forever for anything. And I say, well, then I'm not going to contribute anything because I can't afford it. If I put an image on there and it is from a client of mine, that client is I'm liable for copyright infringement. Or not copyright infringement, but contract infringement on that client's behalf, because I've agreed to that client can use that image, let's say, exclusively.
Let's say this again. I think we didn't touch upon this, because this is the flip side of it. If you have someone that you agree to complete exclusivity of a character or an illustration, and then you just also want to use Pinterest as a little promotional tool for yourself, which is very handy, it's very nice layout and everything. You put some of the stuff up there. You couldn't even do it. You couldn't even put your own stuff in sort of a nice portfolio type site on Pinterest.
Exactly. And that's the only reason why we'd want to really use Pinterest is for, get the piece out. It's a nice conversation starter. It's a nice way to get your name connected to an image. It's a great thing.
There's a film called Terms and Conditions May Apply. I mentioned it on the podcast a few times, and it's very interesting. They relate the advent of these very stringent terms of service to 9/11, where there was so much panic and sort of under the radar, Silicon Valley companies snuck in these things, sort of undetected. I think people should really watch that film. But I wonder, what can you do? I mean, is there anything that we can do? I mean, we are powerless in the digital age, the so-called free internet age of things.
Information is power, so the first thing you want to do is to educate content creators, and I think we've made an attempt to do that in Second Life forums. There are groups out there that have gotten together and written some very strong opinions to the lab about how they feel, and there are content creators that have walked. That is your choice. I think in general, though, education for content creators is a long history. Talking about herding cats. I mean, to educate artists for legal terminologies and for business stuff is very, very difficult. But it's essential, and it's always been essential. And part of the problems that have led to the current crisis of terms of service rights grabs has to do. It all comes back down to your lack of education at the school level, saying, here are your rights. This is how your business works. You are a copyright owner. It's your job to manage that copyright for your benefit and to take care of it.
So you're saying that this is, in fact, a long-standing, just sort of a little
problem. Yeah, it'd be pre-digital age. I mean, I've been involved with organizations from 1978 on, not to give away my age, but we've been trying to educate artists forever. The only way you're going to get companies to change their ways is if all the content creators work basically under one. We have to work under terms that are advantageous for us and for the companies. We're looking for win-wins. We're not looking for, it's not us versus them. We're all in the marketplace together.
It's a matter of organizing then.
Yes, organizing and education, absolutely. So artists, content creators everywhere should always be involved in other content creator groups.
I'm not a pessimist per se, but I don't see common sense in some of these areas, and I see even more tightening. And when we talk about the Oculus acquisition of Facebook, and when we talk about a Facebook-type virtual world, and people have been complaining about the terms of service in Second Life and about the fact that it's a walled garden, frankly, when Facebook creates a much larger virtual world.
Content creators beware. You have to know what you're signing. And
when I listen to you, I see at some point something that does work would be a strike or a walkout or say no. And then they say what? They say, okay, we'll go to Romania to create characters. They do it for a sandwich.
Look, it's a very real problem. Many of my colleagues have seen income drops over the past decade, very real income drops. And it's getting harder and harder to make a living like we once did in the new, truly global marketplace. I mean, where the cost of living in another part of the world is a fraction of what I have to pay here in the Northeast of the United States. So it's discouraging to see new markets adopt worst practices of the old market. Something called work for hire, which was the main problem that we were dealing with way back when. In 1978, the copyright law was rewritten in the United States, basically saying that if you make it, you own it. The large publishing companies they sent their lobbyists to Washington and says, well, we use employees that make content for us and drawings and stuff, and we don't want to treat them. Those are employees. We pay them salaries and benefits, so we want that work. We can't have our employees owning the work, and we negotiate that. We need an exemption from this. So the Library of Congress, who was negotiating the copyright law, said, okay, we will give you a provision called work for hire. This states that if you are an employee, you can get paid and you get benefits, and in exchange for this, you sign over your copyright for any content that you create while you are an employee.
Well, that's, I guess, the situation. You're creating it while you're employed there. It's similar to what happened now with Linden Lab and Verzoo, too, with that other product.
So that's all well and good if you're an employee. So what the corporations then promptly started to do was make freelancers sign over this document called Work for Hire, that says where you have to sign over your copyright saying, well, for in exchange for you getting paid by us, we own your copyright. We're not leasing your rights, we own it. So that's suicide to sign a document like that. And it was unethical. And we educated people for years and years about a Work for Hire. And I think we made good inroads because many world-class illustrators and artists would refuse to sign these things, and the company would say, well, we'll go to somebody else. And we would say, well, go to somebody else, because to work for hire, I might as well just throw my work away. I mean, I get paid for it, and then you own my copyright. You can make a fortune off me. So not going to do it.
And now we go back to a situation where you have a global economy, a tough economy, and people may be more willing to work for a lot less.
And they are. And as a matter of fact, we were fighting an uphill battle even back then with our local movements, local to both regional local and United States local, to fight work for hire. We were trying to get that law actually off the books because it was being abused so bad. But there were just too many artists that didn't get the word and that gladly signed away these things in exchange for a chance to get published. So enter the global marketplace, and you have people who desperately want to get the work out there and will work for free and don't need as much money on top of that. So if you're a freelancer, you have to really work much harder for your living now than ever, because the budgets aren't there as what they used to be. There's alternatives if they don't want to meet your budget, and it's not unique to the content creation market. This has affected all kinds of markets and manufacturers.
What's the status of the work for hire now?
It's still out there. It's no change. Your choice is to either sign it or not. One could only hope that people are more educated now about what it is. So at least when they do sign it, they know what they're getting into. But it's still not a healthy. When I saw the terms of service of the Linden Lab revision, it was like, oh no, not this again. And so it's like, I fought that battle 20 years ago. It's the same. What's that creature, the Hydra, the same snake coming out of a different part.
No, it really seems like there was a very short time in the advent of digital technologies and the internet that was incredibly free, and it's all going back to an old model of control of a few entities. Is that your sense?
What was the whole internet infrastructure bill that was around? What was that called?
The net neutrality issue. That's a huge issue.
Concentration of power and
create an advantage for people with a lot of money. They can push their content through the pipes, and small people fall by the wayside. It's a big problem, but it's also a problem that I don't see enough awareness, and net neutrality is big. We have Comcast owning not only the pipes, but also the content that they want to push through. And I mean, even among the giants they're fighting, Comcast is fighting Time Warner. I mean, that's fun to watch. Maybe that actually may solve the problem if they both self-destruct, and then we can build something new from the rubble again. But
clash the titans. But what we can do, though, just to remain optimistic and positive, is to take your little corner of the rights world or the virtual world or whatever content creation world you want, and to organize and to educate the people who are in the same boat that we are in, and then try to approach the problem systematically and say, look, here's what the TOS is. This is what's wrong with it. Here's some correct language. Let's give it to Linden Labs. Let's talk to Linden Labs, and hopefully they'll make a good move. So that to me is what we should be concentrating our energy on, as as individuals. And you don't have to, run out of the sandbox saying, I'm never going to play with you guys, So let's stick around, act like adults, and try to get some results. Let's talk and let's analyze the problem, come up with some solutions. And you don't have to, run out of the sandbox saying, I'm never going to play with you guys.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Richard A. Goldberg, everyone. We'll link to his fabulous art on the blog.
Linden Lab really has to look at this. They've really got to go and make things better for us, make us at least feel better. If they don't, a lot of people will say, all right, I'm going to stay in Second Life, but I'm just going to stop creating. If the shop's empty, eventually Second Life will empty.
I have to bring this back to the, resurgence of virtual reality, the interest in virtual reality. Facebook maybe building something high fidelity is coming on. What Richard points out here, we can only win this together. We are in the same boat. The creators and Linden Lab, we have an incentive to have a good faith relationship, because we can then really advertise that the world is, that's the place to be. Our world, our metaverse is really cool because it's so rich in content. And that's why this trust has to be restored sooner than later.
This is a serious thing that needs to be sorted, and quickly.
We're running out of time. There's so much we are probably forgetting that's happening. But one thing that we must not forget is that it seems that Lindens are allowed to be in world. And you had Ebbe also at Der Keller in 1920s Berlin?
Yeah, he mentioned on Twitter something a bit puzzling. Lindens can now go back and mingle with Second Life residents, ? Must be another one of those jokes, because it was posted on April 1st. Were perhaps Lindens not allowed to go back in world? Has that been a company rule for a while?
That is interesting. It suggests that there may have been a policy for a while.
Either way, I immediately, of course, said to him, come on over to 1920s Berlin then. We've got schnapps and we've got stroopwafels. And he did, to my surprise. Pretty much within minutes, he suddenly arrived in Berlin. He looks a lot better. He's no longer a robot.
That's right. I saw it on his profile. Yeah, he looks good.
Very
striking young man.
A bit like James Dean.
Yeah.
All the girls in Berlin like him. And he chatted with people and he really enjoyed the music, and he freaked out a bit when I found a couple of Swedish 1920s songs. One of our local resident teacher asked him what plans there are for making education and Second Life work better again. And he said, well, I'm going to have to listen to the education people in Second Life first and understand what we can do for them. And he hopes to learn a lot from the upcoming education conference.
That's right. That's what I was going to mention. The Virtual World's Best Practices for Education Conference is starting April 7th. And Ebbe's keynote is, I think, entitled Reconnecting with the Educational Community, which is great. And we're going to broadcast excerpts from it. Also, Philip Rosedale is speaking. Next week, we'll have excerpts from that. We're totally running out of time. I need to mention Jin-So Yoon, formerly Linden Lab VP of Corporate Development. I've been playing phone tag with him, but he wants to come on the show. He has a great blog, and he blogged about his experience with trying to sell Second Life in the context of the challenge that the Facebook folks may or may not have now with selling virtual reality to people. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. Jo, you sent me a video with the Omni, which is very cool, the Virtuix Omni. We mentioned it on the top of the hour. They've been in Second Life.
They were actually walking around on the Virtuix Omni, which is a multi-directional treadmill. It allows you to walk in real life without moving forwards, obviously, and translating those movements into Second Life, computer games, etc. They realize that Second Life is rather important and has a lot of users.
Eddie Haskell and Ziki Questi alerted me to a sim called Petrovsky Flux. It's absolutely amazing. And apparently they're out of funding. So if you have a Lindens to give so that this sim stays put where it is. Watch the Machinimas on that page that we link to. Petrovsky Flux is an absolutely amazing art installation. You got to check this out.
I will do.
We go out today with some outtakes from Drax Files World Makers video, episode 18 about Paradise Lost, which is immersive theater, which actually premieres tomorrow in Second Life. And Harvey Krapsticks and Canary Beck put that on, the Basilique theater company. And they talked in my initial interview a lot about marketing and perception of Second Life and how to possibly change that. Again, folks, listen and call us with your ideas. We're not giving away a Leap Motion today, but we're collecting a little bit more ideas about the Oculus Facebook deal and what it means for Second Life. That's one thing. If you call in and leave something for us to broadcast, then you're eligible to win a Leap Motion.
Excellent.
So that's that. And now we're going to take off those nasty ski goggles and go out, smell the flowers. What do you say?
No. I haven't even tried flying yet. Someone mentioned that.
That is super cool. You got to do it. It is awesome.
But it's not allowed in 1920s Berlin.
You might actually, for the first time, go somewhere else within Second Life. I heard there are lots of places that are interesting.
Really? Yeah, I'll go to Friesland, which is a really nice sim.
Honor Macmillan wrote about that. Yeah, that looks beautiful. Okay, well, so that's it. We're going out with Canary Beck and Harvey Krapsticks from Paradise Lost. Go and watch the show if you can. It's absolutely amazing. And have a great weekend, everyone. And you too, Jo. Goodbye.
You too. Auf Wiedersehen.
Because I'm in marketing, I see the immense potential of Second Life. There's a lot of misperceptions about what it is. And so I try various tactics in explaining it in a way that people get what it actually is that they can do with it. If I just say I do theater productions in Second Life, I get blank stares. It's confusion. And again, I think it ties down to a lack of a clear description because it's so powerful, a lack of a clear, short, simple sort of slogan or tagline that allows people to get what it is. I mean, when I describe it now, I say a few different things. Maybe if you merged Photoshop with a holodeck.
Even if you disregard Second Life, going to the movies is in some ways a more acceptable thing than sitting at home and renting a movie. And there's this hierarchy of things that we all understand about what is a better activity. I think the interesting thing about Second Life is in many cases, the things that would otherwise be incredibly acceptable are made unacceptable by the fact that you're sat at home. To people that are immersed in Second Life, you're not sat at home. You are going out dancing. You are watching a movie with friends. You are going to see a live performance of theater or music or whatever it may be. It's a hard story to express to someone that hasn't experienced that.
I think to other people, they're looking for more real life clues, the kind of clues that they would know that something was going to be valuable and beneficial to their life. I'm an absolute health fanatic. I'm really passionate about food and spreading that word with everybody. That probably goes towards some of maybe the couch potato stereotypes of like, okay, obviously they're connecting the dots. Obviously you're fit, you're healthy, and yet you're still able to fit this in your life. And then we can talk about, how it fits in, which is that it's an addition.
I'm surrounded by people that are frankly immersed in what I would call digital culture, people that understand fundamentally what technology is all about. The most common thing I hear, I'm too busy for things like that. I think a great example of that is the story about the EVE Online battle. I sort of sent that out to a bunch of colleagues, one of the articles on that, and I got a lot of feedback. The consistent messages in that feedback was, how do they spend so much time online? And I think there's an element of truth in that, but I think that same critique is their gut reaction to things like Second Life. How is it that you have the time to do this? And the simple answer is that, there's time in the day that is that, and there's time in the day that is other things. The fact that we happen to be in world rather than sat next to each other on a couch really isn't important. The important thing is that there's a shared experience.
I think relatively it's much more about unawareness, and that comes down to a value proposition. The benefits are going to be different for different people. We as a society have forgotten to play. We no longer know how to play, to have fun. I mean, most people, I think if you ask them, what did you want to do if you were to have fun? It sounds crazy, but so many people just don't know how to have fun. It's leisure time. It's enjoying your life. And for for me, having fun means making art. How do I add that to my life? That's the missing step with anything where you need people to get action. I mean, I'm constantly trying to get my friends to eat healthier foods. It's the exact same process when I try to describe why eat healthy or why is Second Life so great. What it boils down to is they can't figure out the steps to go from A to B. Maybe I don't have as many connections, real social, authentic connections that I would want. Maybe I have a lot of acquaintances, but I'm not getting much out of it. So it's identifying really what you want in your life and then realizing, Second Life can actually fill that gap. Or, having a green smoothie every day is going to give me all the energy I need.
When I do get involved in discussions about being involved in Second Life and they ask, what's the point? Well, I sort of turn around and say, well, what's the point of real life? What is it that you're doing every day? Why are you doing it?
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Leap Motion, Caravel Design, Vika Creations, Humanoid Animations, Escapades, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Nantra, Angel Red Couture, and Landscapes Unlimited. Special thanks to Richard A. Goldberg for providing the station ID this week. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files, Avatar, Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.